So we are going to be learning how to cut and sew this A-line short dress with a turtleneck and then with a smoking sleeve. All right, so I have my fabric folded out already. We are going to be cutting the front panel and the back panel together. So this A-line dress is going to be having the zippers at the back. So this is our front panel and this is the back panel, okay? And if you notice, the front panel is starting from here, 2 inches. I left this part, 2 inches of this part of the fabric as my zipper allowance. This part is 2 inches, okay? So I have my starting line rolled out already, which is here. So it is from this line we are going to be starting all our measurements. So from this starting line now, okay, down to this line is the bust point, okay? This line, hope you can see it very well. From this starting line to this line is the bust point. From this starting line to this line is the half length or the waistline, okay? It's not going to be having a half cut. It's a straight down from shoulder to the hem. So this is the waistline, okay? From the starting line to this line right here, this very one is the hip line, okay? From this starting line being the shoulder line to this point, this line right here is the length of the dress, okay? Length of the dress. And then I went ahead to add 2 inches seam allowance to the hem of the dress for our folding and turning and all of that. All right, so after getting all our vertical lines, we are going to go ahead right now to start imputing our neckline and then the circumferences of our body, okay? So right about here now, on this starting line, I'm going to be measuring my neckline. So because it is a turtleneck, the back line is going to be, the back panel is going to be, okay, so let's start with the width. The width of the neckline dress, the width to the dress, the neckline is going to be 3.5 inches, which is this, okay? 3.5 inches. Because the person that owns this dress is a little on the big side, okay? So we're going to be using 3.5 inches for the width as against 3 inches, okay? So it's not tight and choky around her neck area, okay? She needs a bit of breathing space around that area. So I'm going to be using a 3.5 inches for the width, okay? And then for the back panel, we are going to be using 1 inch for the depth, okay? Hope you understand. 1 inch for the depth. And then for the front panel, we are going to be using 3.5 inches, okay? 3.5 inches for the depth. Like I said earlier, I don't want it to be choky around her neck area, okay? Hope you got that. All right, so after doing that, I'm just going to connect my marks together. So this is for the front neckline, okay? This is for the front neckline, and then this is for the back neckline, the 1 inch. If you don't have the curves rulers, the French curve rulers, you can use your free hand to do all of the curving. Okay, so I'm just going to extend the line for the back panel, the 1 inch, so the zipper area. So after doing that, I'm going to measure her shoulder measurements. Our shoulder measurement is 15 inches. We'll divide it by 2. We should have 7.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead to add a 0.5 to the 7.5 inches, making it a total of 8 inches. And then we are going to mark it out. 8 inches. That is our shoulder measurement. And then at the shoulder measurement, we are going to mark a 1 inch for our shoulder slope. You know, the human shoulder from the neckline to the shoulder area is not very straight, so we have to slant it in such a way that the dress will relax properly on the shoulder area. So we are just going to connect this 1 inch slope to our neckline this way, okay? So from this point right now, we are going to measure our armhole. Our armhole is 8.5 inches, okay? 8.5 inches. So we are just going to bring it down here. 8.5 inches. and then we'll connect the marks together. Okay, and then mark it towards this side like this. All right, so right about now we are going to go ahead to curve our armhole. So we look for the midpoint of our armhole. 8.5 inches, so the midpoint is going to be 4.25, which is here. Then for the front armhole, we are going to come in by 3/4 of an inch to avoid and prevent every form of bulginess around that armhole area. We'll do that only to the front panel, okay? And then we are going to curve it. This way. So we connect it to this point like this. So this curve right now is for our front armhole. And then for the back armhole, we'll just position our curve this way. And then we connect. Don't forget, we are cutting the back and the front panel together, okay? So it's quicker and not make the video excessively longer than it should be. So this is for the back armhole, and then this one right here is for the front armhole. So we are going to go ahead right now to impute our circumferences. So what I did is I folded this fabric, okay, using the largest parts of my body or the client's body. So the largest parts of my body, so to say, the hip, which is the hip area right now, is 43 inches, okay. So when I divided the hip area by 4, I got 10.75, okay? So on that 10.75, because it is an A-line gown, okay? So an A-line means that, you know, the bottom part from the hip area down to the hem of the dress is going to flay out a little, okay? I added a 5 inches allowance to it. Hope you understand. I divided the biggest area of my body by 4. So what I got, I added 5 inches seam allowance to it, okay, to help my dress flay out at the bottom part of it. So that is what I use to fold my, fabric, okay. So we are going to go ahead right now to impute other measurements. So the bust area, the bust measurement is 42 inches. So if we divide 42 inches by 4, we are going to be having 10.5, okay? We are going to be having 10.5. So this is our 10.5. So these are 10.5. So I'm going to add 0.5 inch seam allowance to it because it's a shift dress. So give it a bit of ease, okay? Making it 11. And then a 1 inch seam allowance, all right? So, but because I'm going to be turning it with lining, by the time I turn on both sides half inch, I should be able to have 1 inch seam allowance to play with. So I'm going to go ahead to add 2 inches seam allowance to it, okay? But if you're not turning yours with lining, you are free to add a 1 inch seam allowance. So this right now is for the bust measurement. Then for the waist measurement is 40 inches, okay? So if we divide 40 inches by 4, we should have 10 plus 0.5 inch for ease, and then 2 inches for seam allowance. So it will make it a total of 12.5 inches, okay? Then on my hip part, I already explained that it was 10.5, okay? 10.75 plus 0.5 inch for ease, and then 2 inches for seam allowance. That will make it a total of 12.25, okay? 10.5 for the waist, 2 inches for seam, that's 12.75, then 13.25 inches, 13.25 inches, okay? That's what we have on the hip area. So we are going to connect these marks together from the under the armhole down to the bust, down to the waist, and then down to the hip. This way, okay? And then from the hip line, from this hip point, we are going to take it down to the hem, which is the length of the dress. Okay, hope you understand. Down to the hem, which is the length of the dress. So we just slant it this way. Okay, we just slant it this way. All right, so another way you can actually slant, okay, so I'm giving you two options now, is to slant from your waistline, okay, down to the hem of the dress. So you can either slant from your hips to your, you can either slant from your hips to your hem, or from your waist to your hem. However you slant it, if you slant from your waist to your hem, it still covers your hips area, okay, the measurements. If you slant from your waist to your hem, it still covers your measurements, okay. So whichsoever one you find convenient for you, it's totally fine. Okay, so I slanted right now with this long roller from our hip, from our waistline to our hem. The first one I showed you was from the hip to the hem. Okay, so whichever one you find easy and beautiful for you is what you should use. Okay, so I'm just going to make this waist curve, this waist area, a bit curved and more realistic. Okay, so we come down to this hem area right now, this hem area. Yeah, we come up by, just to give this place a bit of definition. Okay, so it's not just sticking out and standing aloof on itself. So you come up by 1 inch. Okay, up here you come up by 1 inch, and then you connect it. Okay, you connect it this way. That way, hope you can relate. Okay, so that's for that. So we are done with, you know, the measurements. Right now we are just going to go ahead and cut it out. Okay, so we use this if you're adding lining to your dress to cut out your lining. You also want to make sure that your lining is a little shorter than your main fabric. You can make your lining 1 inch or 2 inches shorter than your main fabric from at this down point, okay, so that it pulls in a little of this your allowances and make the down parts of your dress very beautiful, and not making your allowing your lining to stock out. Okay, so first of all, cut out the back armhole. That way, okay, we'll separate it, and then cut out the front armhole. Just like that. Okay, so go ahead to cut out your lining, and then we go to the sewing tutorial. All right guys, so I have my lining cut out for the gown. This is the front panel. We are going to start the sewing process right away. This is the front panel, and this is the back panel. Okay, so what you will do is you open up your dress. You know, this is the right side of the fabric. On the right side of the fabric, you open up your lining, and then you place your lining on the right side of your fabric. Okay, we are using the fabric to turn we are using the lining to turn the fabric. All right, so you are not going to sew this neck area. You're not going to turn this neck area. Remember I mentioned to you earlier that it is a turtleneck, okay? You're not going to turn this neck area. You're not sewing it yet, okay? You're not sewing this neck area yet, okay? So what you will do is you will come down to the hem, the bottom of the dress. Remember I also told you that you should shorten your lining by 1 inch so that it pulls your main fabric upward like this, okay, giving you a neater job, okay? Hope you remember. So I also shortened my fabric by 1 inch, okay? I shortened my lining by 1 inch, pardon me. So I'll bring my lining to the hem of the dress and then I will sew on it first, okay? I will sew on it first, on the lining parts, on the down parts rather. I will sew on the down parts first, okay, to the end. After doing that, I will pull my lining upward a little to meet with my armhole line properly, okay, and then I will sew the side, okay? I will sew the side. After sewing the side, I will come to the other side and also sew it, okay? And then turn it out, either using the neck area to turn it out or the armhole area to turn it out. But please do not turn the neck because it is a turtleneck. So this is for the front panel. You will also do the same to the back panel. It's the same thing for the back panel. The difference is that the back panel is 2 pieces because of our zipper allowance. So you just basically pick one panel, okay? Sew the bottom part like we did to the upper part, to the front part, all right? Sew the bottom part, okay? You sew the bottom part. You come to the side, you put the lining up to meet with the neckline, and then you sew it down. You come to the other side, and then you also sew it down. You do the same to the other piece of the back panel and sew. After sewing, you turn it inside out and give it a proper ironing. Do not sew the neck at this point, okay? Do not sew the neck at this point. So when we are done with that, we'll come back and finish it up. Alright guys, so I've used my lining to turn my fabric. This is the front panel. I also went ahead to give it a very good ironing and pressing. Okay, this is the front panel. This is the inside, the inner part. You see the part where I suggested that your lining is a little shorter than your fabric, okay, so that I can pull in your fabric a little, giving it a beautiful finishing, you know, along this area. Okay, so this is the front panel, and then this is the back panel, okay? You know the back panel is 2 because of the zipper allowance. So after turning both of them, I iron them and then I place them, okay, together, front part facing the front part, and then I sewed on the zipper allowance that is left, which is 1.5 inches. I left 2 inches on my zippers, okay? I use 0.5 inch to turn, so I'm left with 1.5 inch, okay? 1.5 inch, all right? So I sewed it down, both of them, making it one piece, okay? So this is the back panel. So right about now, the next thing for us to do is to place both panels together, and then we shape it, okay? We sew on the side, okay, making it a piece right now. So you place both of them side by side, but before you sew the side, you come to the neckline area, okay, and then you will use the lining to turn the fabric so that seam allowance will be hidden inside. So you place it like fabric to fabric. This are the fabric, then this is the lining. This part of the lining, you will flip it like this, okay? You will flip it like this, okay, and put it on the other part of the lining, okay? So it now means that you have both lining to one side, okay, and the fabric to one side, okay? The 2 fabric are together, the 2 lining are together, and then you will sew on it, okay? That's the way you turn your shoulder, the shoulder parts of your dress, and then you do the same to the other side, okay? So after doing that, you are going to come to the side. We left 1 inch as seam allowance, okay, on the side, and sew it down, okay, using 1 inch, okay. You come to the other side, you also sew it down using 1 inch or whatsoever inch you left as your seam allowance, okay. You use that inch to run it down. So after doing that, we'll be left with our sleeve. Already our sleeve, we'll be left with the turtleneck collar, okay. All right guys, so we are going to cut the collar to the neck of this dress, right about to the dress, okay. Remember I mentioned it's a turtle collar. You can do a turtle collar, you can do a bishop collar, whichever one you find interesting for you. So this is the dress, okay. So I just fold it. This is the back panel area, okay, for better clarity, the zipper area, okay. So I just fold it into 2 equal half, and then I pin it down so it remains in place for me, and then I locate the midpoint of it, the midpoint to the front neckline, okay, like this. So this is the front neckline, and this side now is the back, okay. This is the front, as you can see, and this is the back neckline. So we need the circumference of it. So we just measure, okay, starting from here, because my collar is going to get to my zipper allowance area, okay. So starting from the zipper allowance, I will measure to get the circumference. So what we have right now is 10.75 inches. So we can zero it to 11 inches, okay? So you just keep that in mind. Don't forget it's on fold. By the time you open it, that 10.75 inches or 11 inches will now be 22. So it's on fold, okay? So I'll fold my fabric this way. This is the fabric that I'll be using for the collar. So I'll just fold it this way, okay? And then fold it this way again. Hope you are following. Fold it this way again, all right? So after folding, we can just do it straight on the fabric. Place this straight on the fabric, okay? And then the measurements we took earlier may not really be useful, okay? So let me just do it directly on the fabric instead of drafting a pattern. So I pick the fabric, the dress, I pin it down, the neckline, so it doesn't move for accuracy purpose, okay. And then I place it this way. This is the front part, okay. So I'll make sure the front part is leaning on this part that is the folded parts of my fabric that I'm using for the neck. So I'll place it that way and then spread it out properly, okay. And then I'll chalk it, okay. I'll chalk it. This is one of the quickest way, instead of drafting a pattern or having to cut a long strip and then add your what's that word, interfacing, a long strip, add interfacing, and sew it around the neck. I don't like that, okay. So I do it this way, okay. I'll extend it a little by 1 inch so that we can fold the edge. I will extend this line a little by 1 inch, all right. So after getting this shape now, I will now determine what is the width of your collar, how wide do you want it to be. So I want mine to be a 1.5 inches, and then I'm also going to go ahead to add a 1 inch to it. 0.5 inch, we use it to, you know, sew this down part, and the other 0.5 inch we use it to sew the collar to the dress, so making it a total of 2.5 inches, okay. So I'll connect that part together. So basically this is it. I'll just go ahead and cut it out. In another tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft a pattern. There is another way of achieving this, okay? So after cutting this out, we are going to add fusible interface into it to give it a bit of firmness. So this is it basically, okay? This is the center front. So this is it. This is the down part where you're going to sew to the neckline of your dress. This is the down part. This wider part is the down part, then this upper part is the upper part, okay? So I cut it out in two. That was why we folded our fabric in 4 places, okay? So I'm going to go ahead to cut my fusible interfacing and infuse it to the collar, okay? After infusing this tape to the collar, I'm going to place both of them together like this again, okay? And then sew this upper parts, okay? I'm going to sew this upper parts. I will sew this upper parts. I will sew it to the end, sew the side, okay? Sew the side and then turn it inside out, okay? And then I'll fix it to my dress. I'll show you how to fix it. Let me apply my fusible interfacing and then I'll come back to you. So guys, I've done my turtleneck collar, okay? This is the inside. I also went ahead to fold in the edge by 0.5 inch, okay, on both sides. I folded it in on the side and also folded it in on the other side. So right now we are going to fix it, and this is how to fix it. You just place your collar on your neckline, okay? This edge, you have to sew this edge. I mentioned it earlier, like this. You sew this edge, okay? Then when you open it, you have, this is what you will have. So you place your collar on the edge tip of your neckline, okay, this way, and then sew your collar down using a bit of tight stitch so that it comes out very neat, okay? You can first of all use your pin to hold it down in place for you, okay, that way. Just follow it that way till you get to the end. Sew it down till you get to the end of your neckline. Then you replicate what we did on this beginning at this end parts, and then cut off any excesses if you have any. So basically that's how to fix your collar. You go ahead to fix your sleeve. I've showed you how to achieve the sleeve or any kind of sleeve that you've done for your dress, but for this is what we are using. Kindly check the channel on how to make this smoke puffy sleeve. I didn't want the video to be too long, so I made it separately. Check the channel. You will see a link on how to make this. I'll also link it to this video. You fix your zip and you are done with this dress. So I'm going to go ahead right now to fix my sleeve and my collar, and then I'll show you the end product. So if you know this tutorial video has been helpful to you, please do not go away without liking, giving a thumbs up, and then subscribing. Thank you guys. See you in our next video.